Hi there, everybody. Welcome back to Goshen Prepping. I want to talk about water. A few days ago, I talked about water and basically, obviously, how essential it is, ways to collect water and crap into the fan. And I hope, at the very least, you have some water filters to be able to filter out whatever water you get, being rainwater, catchment, or maybe there's a creek nearby. You have to have water, lots of water. And when it comes to this, let's say you find yourself in a scenario where you're out in the woods, you don't have your water filters, maybe some bandit stole it, whatever the case may be, and you may ask, that river right there, that stream right there, that pond right there, is that safe to drink? Long story short, not safe. I'm not going to ever say it's safe. And I want to go through this video and get this, and write this down, by the way, because you may get into a point where you are next to a river and you have no filtration devices, no way to start a fire, and therefore, can you drink from that river? Long story short, yes, you can. Still not saying it's safe, but you can drink from it. Because what we're looking at, when you drink from like a stream or a river, we have to worry about specifically fecal matter from other animals upstream. And you're not sitting there watching deer go over there, but obviously it happened upstream and it washes down. And even though it's dilute, you have to understand that if you get some of those different types of organisms, like, some type of parasite or giardia, for example, or even bacteria in your digestive tract, it can actually grow and multiply and cause some major problems. The problems being, and here's what it is, and I'm telling you this as a physician, it's not simply about having a bellyache. It's about the things like diarrhea and vomiting. That is what you have to worry about. Now, I'm not saying if you barf twice, that's bad. I mean, barfing is barfing, it's awful, but it's continuous because what happens is literally you're putting something inside your digestive tract that is kind of like poison. And the big problem is this: the more you start barfing, the more you start, vomiting, I should use that term, shouldn't I? The more you start having diarrhea, the more it's going to drain you of your water and it's going to dehydrate you. And I am not saying, oh boy, I'm really thirsty and here's my water bottle I take to martial arts every day, so I'm thirsty and I need to drink some more water. No, we're talking about true dehydration. And if you've never been there, you don't ever want to get there. But our body's amazing because what it does is it gives you that sensation of like, wow, I'm just really thirsty. And people often say, oh, I'm dehydrated. That's not dehydration. Your water levels are low, and that thirst you feel is literally your brain telling you you need to start looking for water. And you better listen to that signal very clearly when you hear your body saying, oh, I really need some water. And water is it, by the way. When I was in the military, of course, I drank copious amounts of water as I was continuously physically doing things all the time. Of course, that's the military. And I remember one day I was at the store, and I came across some of that orange powder. It was like Tang, for example, but it wasn't Tang. It was just some kind of like orange juice flavored powder stuff. And I had the bright idea, it was not a bright idea, that, you know what, instead of drinking boring old water every day as I do my maneuvers and stuff, I'm going to drink some tasty water, some kind of like concentrated orange juice stuff. And I did it for like maybe 2 days. I'll be honest with you. I was doing it every time I drank water, I would fill it in my bottle and drink it, and off I go. Not realizing it was literally robbing me of my water. Basically, it was dehydrating me. And I remember finally I was going on watch, and I was like, oh my gosh, I am so thirsty. And there's that, oh, there it is right there. If you ever have it, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so thirsty. You better stop right now and say, I need some water. I need some water. I didn't. I said, okay, I'm really thirsty, not putting two and two together. Maybe I should stop drinking this powder garbage. And so I went ahead and got a bottle, put in the powder stuff in there, filled it up, and said, okay, I'm so thirsty I can drink this now, not realizing it was the powder that was making me thirsty because it was robbing me of the water. And so there I was. I switched from being thirsty, the thirst centers in my brain were lighting up, to now true dehydration. There came the vomiting. There came the diarrhea. Went to the medic, and he's like, oh, you're dehydrated. And I was like, how can I be? I've been drinking all this orange stuff. There you go. So water is the key. If you have that little thirst center in there, you must listen to that. You must drink water. Now, I'm not saying you couldn't have some electrolytes, because let me tell you this real quick too. If you're drinking water, and I'm like, I'm so thirsty, and you're drinking it, then you literally start peeing. I mean, obviously not in your pants, but you just have to go pee a lot. And then you basically pee a lot out, and you're like, oh, I'm thirsty again. That's dangerous too, but it's not dangerous because you're not replenishing it with water. You're low in electrolytes. Basically, at that point, you need to add some salts to your water. Even if you basically don't buy electrolytes, like I always talk about key nutrient electrolytes. I'll link them below. I love these. They're great flavors. There's no sugar. They're keto. They're really good for you. And I basically have at least one a day to keep my electrolytes up. But even if you don't do that, but let's say you have a bottle of water, you drink one of these a day or one in the morning, just take a couple pinches of salt and put it in here, slosh it up and drink it, and now you're going to have some electrolytes replenished because you can't let your electrolytes go down. But what happens is this, and here's the key. Once you hit that threshold, you're beyond thirsty, but now you're dehydrated. As you have diarrhea and vomiting, it's causing you to lose all that water that was in your digestive tract that you were going to absorb, and it's going to make you more thirsty, more dehydrated, and next thing you know, you're dead. Because understand, one of the major causes of death of people in the wilderness is dehydration. And listen, we're not talking about, oh, I'm thirsty and you collapse and you die peacefully in a meadow full of flowers. No, you are vomiting and diarrhea and the pain's going along with it until you die. So it's not even a nice death. So here's what you want to do. You're out in the woods and you have no water. Somebody stole your water filter and you see a river and a stream. Can you drink from it? If you're getting to the point where you're basically, I'm thirsty, or even heading to dehydration, drink from that water. Drink from that stream right there. Start drinking some. You do have to worry about the organisms in there. And the organisms will, in the near future, a few days perhaps, will make it so you'll start having like diarrhea, which I mentioned is dangerous for you because you know what? It'll start robbing you more of water, but you have a few days to counteract this. You need to right then and there start drinking from the water. But what you want to look for the water is this. Number one, you want to make sure you have a nice fast flowing river, not necessarily even a stream, and certainly not like a pond or a swampy area. The more the water is stagnated and basically is stale, the far more dangerous it is. Because when it's stale or just sitting water, it makes it so the bacteria and the protozoa and everything can drastically increase in number, and you're going to get more sick from drinking that. So the more splashy the water is, it hits the rocks, it hits all these things, it actually helps filter the water. It's really neat, and it's going to help you out. So go ahead and drink some. If you're really at the point where I'm so thirsty, I'm bordering dehydration, go ahead and have some. But get ready, because in a couple of days you are going to be dehydrated. So in the meantime, what you can do is start actually getting the water and boiling it, rolling boil. Maybe you do find a water filter or something. Maybe you're going to follow the stream down and get out of the woods in a matter of 24 hours. Fine, go ahead and just drink it and keep going. But remember, it is going to change. But what happens is this. All those organisms inside of you will start growing and your digestive system becomes upset. You have problems as far as like having the diarrhea. And therefore, you're going to have obviously, if you ever travel to Mexico, and they call it, you have Montezuma's revenge. And that's what happens is because in America, we don't have the best water in the world, but it's darn close. We have very, very good water in America, where our water system, when you drink from the faucet, let's say it comes from a town or a city, it's already been basically filtered out so those organisms are not in there. That's fantastic. But you go on a trip to Mexico, hey, let's go to Cancun, you have a good time. And they always tell you not to drink the water in Mexico. And for this reason, because their water treatment facilities are not very good at all. And so what happens is you drink some of it and it's like drinking from a stream. Think of it that way. So you come back and for a few days you're like, oh, my stomach. I've had that happen before, by the way. I try not to drink the water, but apparently I still drank some. Oh, my stomach is killing me. Oh, it's awful. I mean, the question is then why don't Mexican people have Montezuma's revenge? I mean, first off, they can. Probably when they're younger they did. But their immune system builds up and is used to having those critters in there. It's just in America, our water is too clean, and therefore it's not used to taking all these buggers. But secondly, too, I don't know if you know it, but in a lot of cities in Mexico, they use the tap water for like bathing and stuff, washing the car, etc., but they don't drink it. They actually have water filters too down there too. So it's not simply just Americans getting sick in Mexico, but the Mexican people as well. All right, another thing to look for is this. Let's say you see a stream going or creek going or a river. Maybe it's not a big river, but a smaller one. You're kind of wondering if this is a good place to drink water from. Again, you don't want to have it so it's sitting still. Watch other animals. If you're hanging around just watching the critters running around, you see like a squirrel or a bird going into an area for water, those little guys, they know where the clean water's at. And that would be a good place for you to get the water as well. I mean, granted, if the squirrel's pooing the water, which they probably don't, you talk to the squirrels, but they don't listen sometimes. You want to make sure that you stay away from the feces, but that's actually a better place to have it too. All right, so that's like a last ditch, worst case scenario. You're always going to want to try to treat water if you can. And I always talk about having water filters. There's so many on the market. All of them work great. I love my Katadyn for backpacking. I have a Sawyer. I've got Lifestraws. I actually have a Lifestraw bottle, which I like because I scoop up the water, then drink it through the Lifestraw after. I love my American Reserves. For American Reserves, I also have a gravity-fed water filter system too. So if it ever came down to it, or if I'm camping or something, I can just pour the water in it, then the gravity-fed will go down. Do you have that kind of system, like a Berkey, for example? Now, you can do like the water tablets or bleach. They work as well. It takes some time for them to kick in, by the way. And they will not work with, obviously, if there's like chemicals in the water. So let's say you're not worried about Bambi upstream pooping in the water, but there's actually some kind of like chemical factory upstream. You're not going to find water tablets and stuff that's going to take care of that. In fact, a activated charcoal filter is your best bet for that situation. All right, anyways, so long story short, if the water's raging, really fast moving water, you're safe enough to go ahead and drink it, but I would only do it if you literally have to have the water. But if you can find a way to boil the water, by the way, for regular elevation, you can boil water for a minute, and that'll actually render all those critters dead in there. If you're a higher elevation, like a little bit more than a mile up, rolling boil it for 3 minutes is better. And of course, at that point, you can drink the water too. Not hot, unless you're making like hot chocolate or tea or something. But anyway, make sure you have some way to treat it if possible. But rest assured, if you're in a situation where you can't treat it because you don't have your filters and stuff, you can still drink the river. Just be prepared because Montezuma also lives in the rivers too. Okay, thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll see you tomorrow.